It's 7:18 on a Monday morning, and you're standing inside a crowded coffee shop. The person ahead of you orders the most expensive drink on the menu. You look at the price. Then you order your usual coffee. Nothing about the moment feels important, but 6 months ago, you would have made a different decision. You would have ordered the larger drink, maybe added breakfast, maybe paid for everyone behind you. Not because you wanted it, because you wanted to feel successful. That morning, you realize something has changed. You no longer make financial decisions to look successful. You make them to become difficult to destabilize. And that difference slowly changes everything. A year earlier, your definition of wealth was simple: a nicer car, a bigger apartment, better clothes, more expensive restaurants, more impressive vacations. You thought wealthy people bought better things. You didn't realize some wealthy people simply bought fewer things. You were 27. Your salary had recently crossed $60,000. For the first time, you felt like you were making real money, and almost immediately, you started spending like it. Your apartment got upgraded, your phone got upgraded, your wardrobe got upgraded, your weekend spending got upgraded. Nothing seemed outrageous individually. That was the problem. It was never one huge purchase. It was hundreds of small decisions quietly becoming permanent. Then one Friday evening, you were scrolling through your bank account. Your salary had increased significantly over the previous 2 years, but your savings barely had. You stared at the number, then you asked yourself a question you had never seriously considered. If I'm earning more, why don't I feel richer? The answer was uncomfortable, because your lifestyle had learned how to consume every raise. You weren't becoming wealthier, you were becoming more expensive to maintain. That night, you started reading about people who had maintained wealth for generations. Not celebrities, not influencers, not people trying to look rich, people who treated money differently. And you noticed a pattern. They weren't obsessed with showing wealth. They were obsessed with preserving options. They cared about ownership. They cared about cash flow. They cared about avoiding unnecessary debt. They cared about buying things that lasted. They thought about the next decade before thinking about next weekend. You started calling this your old money mindset. Not because you suddenly belonged to some wealthy family. You didn't. You simply started copying the behaviors that made wealth durable. The first rule was surprisingly simple. Stop buying things to impress people who don't pay your bills. Your next raise arrived. The old version of you would have immediately searched for a nicer car. Instead, you kept driving the same one. Your coworker noticed. Still driving that thing? You laughed. Yeah, it works. And that was the whole answer. You didn't need to defend the decision. The car still started, it still got you to work, it still carried groceries home, so why replace it? For the first time, you began separating need from status, and that distinction became addictive. You started asking different questions before buying things. Will I still want this in 5 years? Does this actually improve my life? Would I buy it if nobody ever saw it? Does this create value, or does it create another monthly payment? Those questions changed your spending faster than any budgeting app ever had. You stopped chasing discounts on things you didn't need. You stopped buying cheap replacements every few months. You started buying fewer things, but when you bought something important, you looked for quality. A good chair, a reliable laptop, a durable jacket, a proper mattress. Things you used constantly. You weren't trying to spend more, you were trying to waste less. Then you changed the way you treated your home. You stopped trying to make your apartment look expensive. Instead, you made it comfortable, clean, quiet, functional. You removed things you barely used. You stopped buying decorations simply because they were trending. Your home became less impressive to strangers and much better to live in. That was another lesson. Wealth isn't always about adding. Sometimes it's about removing. Then you changed your relationship with restaurants. You still went out, you still enjoyed good food, but you stopped choosing restaurants because they looked impressive on social media. You started choosing places because you actually liked them. You stopped photographing every meal. You started enjoying the meal. That small change followed you everywhere. You stopped taking vacations for photographs. You started taking them for memories. You stopped buying clothes for compliments. You started buying clothes that actually fit. You stopped upgrading your phone because a new model appeared. You upgraded when the old one stopped doing its job. And slowly, something strange happened. You started feeling richer while spending less. Not because you had suddenly become wealthy, because your money finally started staying with you. Then you changed the biggest thing of all. Your paycheck stopped being something you spent first. It became something you allocated. Bills, emergency savings, investments, long-term goals, then lifestyle. That order felt strange at first, but eventually it became automatic. Your investments grew, your cash reserves grew, your debt shrank, and your lifestyle remained surprisingly stable. Your salary increased again. You didn't immediately move. You didn't immediately upgrade your car. You didn't immediately increase your monthly expenses. Instead, you increased the amount flowing toward assets. That was when you discovered something powerful. A raise can disappear into your lifestyle, but an asset can stay with you. It can potentially grow. It can produce income. It can give you options years later. So you started thinking less about income and more about what your income became after you received it. Your friends noticed something. You seemed calmer about money. When someone suggested an expensive weekend, you didn't automatically say yes. When someone suggested upgrading apartments, you didn't immediately start searching. When someone wanted to finance a new car, you didn't feel jealous. You simply asked yourself whether you wanted the payment. Most of the time, you didn't. Then one afternoon, your friend bought a luxury watch. He proudly showed everyone. It was beautiful. You genuinely liked it. And for once, you didn't feel inferior. You realized something. You could afford something similar. You simply didn't want to exchange that much money for something you didn't value enough. That was different from being unable to afford it. You had learned the difference between can buy and should buy, and that distinction made you feel richer than the watch ever could. Then you started thinking about time. A purchase wasn't only costing money, it could also cost future freedom. A larger mortgage could mean more years of work. A luxury car could mean more payments. A bigger lifestyle could mean less flexibility. So you began asking another question. What will this decision make me dependent on? That question changed your career too. Your manager offered you a promotion, more money, more responsibility, more meetings, more pressure. A few years earlier, you would have accepted instantly. Now, you looked at the entire package: salary, hours, stress, travel, time. You realized the promotion wasn't automatically an upgrade. It was a trade. More money in exchange for more of your life. And suddenly, you had to decide whether the trade was worth it. You didn't automatically say yes. You didn't automatically say no. You negotiated. You asked questions. You thought. And for the first time, you behaved like someone who had options. That was the real change. You weren't trying to become rich overnight. You were becoming harder to control. A company couldn't scare you as easily. A sudden expense couldn't destroy your months. A bad investment decision couldn't wipe out everything. A tempting purchase couldn't convince you that you were falling behind. Your financial life had developed a buffer, and that buffer changed your personality. You became patient. You stopped needing immediate rewards. You became comfortable waiting. You started understanding why wealthy people often talk about decades instead of weeks, because wealth compounds slowly, habits compound slowly, reputation compounds slowly, skills compound slowly, relationships compound slowly. The biggest things in life rarely need to happen immediately. That became your new advantage. You could wait. A year later, your investment account crossed $100,000. You didn't celebrate with a new car. You didn't post it online. You simply looked at the number and remembered how different your life had looked before. You had once thought wealth meant owning more. Now you understood something else. Wealth meant needing less debt, less pressure, less approval, less consumption, less dependence, and more choices. Then came a difficult market year. Your investments dropped. The number on your screen fell by tens of thousands of dollars. The old version of you would have panicked. The new version remembered the plan. You hadn't invested for 1 year. You were building for decades. So you kept going. You didn't pretend the losses didn't hurt. They did. But you didn't allow fear to make the decision. That became another part of your new mindset. Calm doesn't mean nothing goes wrong. Calm means you don't let every problem control your next move. Years continued. Your income grew. Your investments grew. Your lifestyle barely changed. And eventually, people started assuming you were simply conservative. They were right, but they didn't understand why. You weren't trying to look rich. You were trying to make sure your future couldn't easily be ruined by one bad decision. Then one Saturday, you walked through a luxury shopping district. Everything around you was designed to create desire: cars, watches, designer clothes, jewelry, restaurants. You could afford some of it, maybe more than you expected. But you kept walking, not because you were pretending to be above it, because you finally knew what you wanted: freedom. You wanted the ability to leave a bad job. You wanted the ability to help your family. You wanted the ability to handle emergencies. You wanted the ability to take time off. You wanted the ability to say no. And suddenly, those things felt more luxurious than anything behind the glass. That's when you understood what old money really meant to you. It wasn't about inherited wealth. It wasn't about wearing expensive clothes. It wasn't about private clubs or enormous houses. It was about thinking beyond the moment, protecting what you have, buying quality when quality matters, avoiding unnecessary obligations, keeping your lifestyle under control, and letting your money work quietly. Eventually, your friends started noticing something else. You never seemed desperate for the next thing. You weren't rushing to upgrade. You weren't competing. You weren't trying to prove anything. And that's because you had finally stopped using other people's lifestyles as your financial scoreboard. Someone buys a new car. Good for them. Someone buys a bigger house. Good for them. Someone takes an expensive vacation. Enjoy it. Their choices don't require yours to change. That realization gives you an incredible kind of peace. You can admire something without needing to own it. You can afford something without buying it. You can want something without immediately purchasing it. And you can walk away from something without feeling like you lost. Then one evening, you sit alone in your apartment. Your phone is beside you. Your investment account is open. The number is much larger than you ever imagined when you started. You close the app. You look around. Same simple furniture, same old car outside, same ordinary clothes. Nothing looks dramatically different, but your relationship with money is completely different. Money no longer tells you who you are. It simply supports the life you decided to build. And that's when you realize the biggest change wasn't your bank account. It was your decision-making. You stopped asking, "Can I afford this?" and started asking, "Is this worth owning?" You stopped asking, "Will people think I'm successful?" and started asking, "Will this make my life better?" You stopped asking, "What can I buy?" and started asking, "What can I build?" That is when everything changed, because eventually the quietest form of wealth isn't having the most expensive things. It's having enough financial strength that expensive things stop controlling your attention. You can walk past the luxury dealership. You can sit beside someone wearing a $20,000 watch. You can hear someone brag about their new house, and you don't feel behind. You simply continue walking because you're playing a different game, a game where patience matters, ownership matters, Time matters, and the person you're trying to impress is your future self. Years later, you wake up on an ordinary Tuesday. You make coffee, you check your calendar, you drive your reliable car to work. Nothing about your morning looks particularly wealthy, but you know something nobody else can see. Your financial decisions are no longer designed around looking successful today. They're designed around giving you choices tomorrow. And that changes everything. Because the old version of you wanted to look rich, the new version of you wants to stay free. And maybe that's the real lesson behind making decisions like old money. You don't need to inherit wealth to inherit the habits. You just need to stop asking what makes you look richer and start asking what makes your life stronger. Because eventually, the goal isn't to have everyone know you're wealthy. The goal is to build a life where they don't need them to know. And when you reach that point, you realize you weren't learning how to look rich, you were learning how to stay rich. Quietly, patiently, and for a very long time.